Hi, and welcome to The Curling Show, the podcast that brings you interviews with the sport's top athletes and the people who shape the game. I'm Dean Gemmel, and in this edition, we talk to a junior curler from Ontario who beat some of the top women's teams in the world a short while ago in London, Ontario, before struggling this weekend, hopefully it's not a curling show jinx, against some of the top junior women's teams. It's a curious game, this curling. The winner of the Southwestern Ontario Women's Charity Cash Spiel, Rachel Homan, welcome to The Curling Show.
Hi.
First of all, congratulations on your win in London. I realize it was not unexpected for competitive curlers in Ontario, but I know more than a few people across North America were taken aback by the results. Considering the strength of the field, did this win surprise you?
Well, going in, we expected to do okay. We expected to win a couple, lose a couple, gain some experience. Last year we had qualified, so this year I wanted to get to the semi, and we did a lot better than expected. So,
I mean, not only did you guys win the Spiel, but you won a lot of games easily, and you won with a spare after second Alison Kreviazuk. Did I get that right?
Yeah, our second re-injured her groin from previous curling injury. I guess she injured it about 2 years ago, and so she sat out for the quarters, semi, and final. But Erin Morrissey was going to school in London, so she gave us a call, and we were really grateful that she could help us out.
Now, you beat former world champion Debbie McCormick, you beat Jen Hanna, you beat Julie Reddick twice, you beat Eve Belle-Isle in the final, and you beat Jennifer Jones twice. How deep in the Spiel were you where you started to feel really optimistic about your chances?
Well, after our first few wins, we were feeling pretty good. We were playing well, and we were just hoping for the best, really. When we went out there, we didn't, obviously it's kind of a big deal to play the big names like Jen Jones and McCormick and them, but you just try not to think about the name and just play your game, and it worked out for us.
Your team started playing together when you were 12, and I guess Allison and Nikki were 13. So you and Emma were 12, Allison and Nikki were 13, I think. Is that right?
Yeah, we've been together for a while. It's kind of unusual for a curling team, I guess.
You won the Ontario Bantams 3 years in a row. You've twice won the Ontario Curling Tour Championships. You won a gold medal at last year's Canada Games. Now you had this big win. You're currently number 10 in the CTRS standings. Were these the kind of things you imagined happening when you were 12?
Well, it's hard to imagine something like that when you're 12 years old.
Good point.
But you gotta have goals, and each year we set them higher and higher and tried to achieve what we could, and we improved each year. So.
You know, of course, the one thing that's missing from your resume is an Ontario Junior Women's crown, which makes me think two things. The Ontario Junior Women's field is pretty strong, and it's sometimes toughest to win when everyone expects it. How do you explain it?
Yeah, well, our goal has always been to get to the Nationals, and every year we've struggled, I think, trying to get there at provincials, and I think this year we're really striving for it and trying to practice as much as we can and prepare ourselves for Nationals. First provincials and then try and get to nationals. But I think that's why our second has pulled her groin. That's why she sat out, because really our goal is the nationals and not Spiels, although it is nice to get wins in Spiels as well.
It's nice to pick up $11,000 on a weekend.
Yeah.
Hey, I know how difficult it was for you to find time for this interview, so give me an idea of a typical week for Rachel Homan and her team.
Well, it's pretty busy. All of us go to university full-time. I think I'm the only one that's working right now, and then we curl about every day, pretty much. We're away usually every weekend. I think we have one weekend a month off, and we're in a Wednesday league at the Ottawa Curling Club. We practice once as a team because our schedules are so different. We can't really get together that often, and then we try and get out once or twice more a week to kind of loosen up and make sure we're getting our rocks in every week. So it's pretty busy, I would say.
Now, is your team, are you old enough to play in the women's yet?
No, we're not. I think my front end is eligible this year, but I think it conflicts with juniors. So I think every year juniors and women's conflict. So even if you're old enough, you have to choose one or the other.
Now let me ask you this: you've consistently beaten the top women's teams for the last few years. Do you think it's fair that you can't play?
Well, personally, I don't think it is really.
It's not fair.
No, like if you're good enough to play with the best, then why not?
Exactly.
Like I think you want the best team from Ontario to represent your province. So, but again, like our goal is juniors. So I think if we had the chance, that we probably would choose juniors over women.
You know, it's an
You got
interesting
your whole
point.
life for women.
If you look at other sports, in particular, say like women's tennis, I mean, peak years are where you're at right now, almost. You know, when you can practice and not wear your body out and things like that. So, I really do think it's something that needs to be changed.
Yeah, I think so too. Like, if it wasn't for the confliction and the age limit for the women's, then I think we would play in it and try and play with the top women's teams.
And you'd be a favorite in it. And you know, the interesting thing too is, you know, as you go forward, it gets more difficult to play as you get older. This is a great time to be competing. And then the other thing is, I'm unfortunately 40 now, but when I came out of junior, as a junior, you wanted to get picked up by a men's team or a women's team. And now I think veterans are hoping that juniors will play with them.
Yeah, I'm not too sure about that. I mean, the veterans always have the experience, whereas the juniors don't really. So to get on a women's team, I think it would be really awesome if we could all get on women's teams, because I mean the experience that Jen Jones, Jen Hanna, all those top teams have. They have experience with the pressure, playing at Scots and everything. Something that juniors don't have.
So you wouldn't rather stick with your team?
Well, I think for most juniors, because they don't stay together that long.
Right.
Like for us to stay together for 6-7 years is really unusual. My team in particular, I think it would be okay to stay together, but like most junior teams stay together 1-2 years maybe, so they don't really have experience with each other for very long. So I think maybe they would want to get on a women's team for the experience. But
hey, here's another thing. You're number 10 in the CTRS standings. Would you be eligible to play in the 2009 Canadian Olympic curling trials?
It's pretty a slim chance, I think. Like obviously we would love to, but with the amount of spiels that we're in, I don't think we can get enough points unless we win them all, which would be extremely hard to do. Because we're only in about 2, maybe 3 CTRS events, so we would have to do extremely well in all of them to get enough points, I think.
Or next year, you could win and you could get to the Scotties Tournament of Hearts and do well.
I'm sorry?
If you did well next year, the Scotties Tournament of Hearts, I guess that could get you in.
Well, I don't think we're going to be striving for the Scotch Tournament.
I'm jumping ahead here. I mean, it's an impressive record. I've seen you play in Ontario, and you guys look like you're not afraid to win, and I think you should be able to play in the women's right now. Anyway, that's my own story here. Hey, I believe you started curling when you were 4. Is that right?
4 or 5, I think. I think both me and my vice, we started curling together actually at the same club.
Really? And your brother's Mark Homan, who's long been considered one of the top Ottawa players. One-time junior teammate of John Morris. His father Earl is your coach. Was there ever a time when you pursued sports other than curling?
I played soccer competitively for a while, but it got to be too much with being gone every weekend all year round. So I think it got to the point where I had to choose one or the other, and I chose curling, so I think it was the right choice.
So far, it's working out pretty well. Hey, you guys play a really aggressive style, and now that you've played against one of the more offensively minded women's teams in Jennifer Jones, do you think your strategy is, say, similar to the way they play?
To the way who plays, sorry?
To the way Jennifer Jones plays. I mean, they're considered one of the more aggressive women's teams, and you're certainly call a game that's very aggressive.
Yeah, I would say that I'd rather play an aggressive game. I find just hitting is really boring. And
It's the boredom that turns you off it.
Yeah, well, and I don't know, just hitting rocks doesn't really show talent, and people aren't really interested in that. I think it makes the game more interesting, and if you play with more rocks in play, I think you can gain more experience with strategy that way. And playing against Jennifer Jones was amazing. We learned a lot from all those teams with their strategy and the way they communicate and everything. So.
Have you ever been frustrated when you've watched women's curling on television?
I've never been frustrated. I think I really enjoy it, and there's always different opinions about what shot they should have played and different things like that. So I think it's interesting watching them and having your own opinion of what they should have played and what they should do.
Well, I think the women's game it took a bad rap in the last couple of years for conservative play. I think a lot of teams are playing more offensively these days. And
yeah, I think it's good to see. I mean, the final with Jen Jones and Jen Hanna that I saw at the Tournament of Hearts a couple years ago was amazing. There was a lot of rocks in play. An off she made was pretty amazing too. So
right, and you play Jen Hanna pretty regularly, I would guess. Is that right?
Yeah, we're from the same club, and actually we play every Wednesday. And the weekend after London Ladies, we played them, and they beat us just in the club game there.
I guess they would have liked to have switched that.
Yeah, maybe.
All right, Rachel, we finished with the run back. I give you a topic, and you give me your thoughts on it in 1 to 3 words.
All right.
Okay. Winning $11,000 in a weekend when you're still teenagers.
Pretty good for the bank.
Curling in Switzerland.
A lot of fun, a lot of partying.
Oh, geez. That's the TCA Energizer spiel, right? It's the old Sun Life spiel. You win that, you go to Switzerland?
Yeah, it's a good time.
Yeah, that always was known for being a great thing to win.
Yeah.
Your brother Mark, season with Pierre Charette.
I think it's great for him.
Yeah, they're struggling a bit, though, aren't they?
Yeah.
The Ontario Junior Curling Tour.
I think it's great for junior curling.
You guys have been playing in that for years, right? I mean...
Yeah, I think it's really good. It gets all the top juniors to play against each other at the end of the year, so it's great.
And the last thing, free time.
Don't have a lot of it.
There you go. Hey, Rachel, I don't expect junior teams usually to have sponsors, but I give every team a chance to name their sponsors on the show, and I think you actually might have some, so let me know who they are.
Goldline and MB&A Canada were our main sponsors this year.
All right, thanks, Rachel. Good luck the rest of the season. Good luck in your junior playdowns and wherever else you're playing and beating teams.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having me on the show.
That's Rachel Homan on The Curling Show. Thanks for listening. Here's Black Pudding.